Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'm going to be planting up my two Dahlia tubers here. So these were the pots that they previously came in, and the smallest one I'm definitely going to continue growing it in this pot. The larger one I'm going to put it in this pot for now, but I'll definitely need to continue in a larger pot, in a bigger pot in the near future, because it's really growing quite large. So the smallest one is one I bought from a shop as a small plant. You can see here it's grown a decent number of tubers. There's a particularly big tuber at the bottom there. I could have wanted to start to take cuttings off this or start to divide it up, but I'm just going to plant it as it is because it's not too big yet, and I'm just going to have it as a single plant. So this was, as I say, it was in a pot, came as a flowering plant, and it flowered quite well last year, so hopefully it'll flower well this year again. So it's currently the end of March, so it's a little bit late for planting these, but I've been busy with a move, so that's why I'm a bit delayed. But I'm going to have these in the polytunnel or a greenhouse where it's going to be nice and warm, give them a head start, and then when it warms up in May or June, then I can either put them out in the garden or I can put them in a larger pot. Although with this one I'll be keeping it in the smaller pot. And this one here is a much bigger plant. I must add, this one, the one with the red flowers, was only about 1 or 2 foot tall at the tallest, whereas this one grows up to about 1 meter or 3 foot tall. This is a large yellow flowered variety. I don't have the names, unfortunately. But you can see here, this one I've actually grown it for several years. This is about I think the third season I'm growing it, and you can see it's got some really big tubers on there. So this is putting a lot of strong growth. There's a lot of energy stored in those roots, and you can see it's quite ready. It really is starting to get ready for dividing. There's several stems coming off of that. I'm going to grow it again though as one plant this year, and then maybe in the next few years I'll then divide it up. But this pot, as you can see, is probably about as small as I really want to give it. It needs a bigger pot soon, but it's going to stay in this pot just for a few months just to give it a head start, and then I'll put it in a big pot or the soil later on. I don't want to put it in a really big pot now because it'll be so big it'll be hard to transport around, and I'm also quite short of compost for these. So I find these grow best not in multi-purpose compost, but in a loam-based or soil-based compost. But unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, I'm currently quarantined, so I can't go out and get more compost. All the shops are closed. So I'm going to be using the compost from my parents' house, which has just been composted garden waste and food waste. Now that's got quite a big collection of soil mixed in with it from whenever they were doing weeding. A little bit of soil's gone to the compost. So it's more like a very rich topsoil than an actual multi-purpose compost or even a normal garden compost. But what it does need is it needs quite a lot of riddling. The compost hasn't fully broken down, so there's a lot of big pieces in it. So I'm going to set up the camera now. You'll be able to see the compost. There's lots of big pieces in it, even bits of turf and unrotted material. But most of it has rotted away quite well. So I'm just going to get the riddle, and I'm just going to riddle through lots of compost, get these pots ready, and then once I've got enough compost for these pots, I'll start planting up these tubers. So that's the compost now all riddled. As you can see, it's actually turned out into a really nice kind of rich topsoil appearance. To say it's definitely a loam-based compost. You can see there's a lot of sand in there, a lot of soil, but it's really rich in organic matter. So it's somewhere between a topsoil and a compost. But the dahlias should really like that. It should grow really well. So as I say, I'm going to put the smaller one in here. Simply just check the height of it. I'm going to cut off the excess of the stalk there, because that's no longer needed. It's just completely dead. So the stalk tends to die down to where the tubers join it, so it's dead down to at the point where it joins, and at the point where it joins, that's where the new shoots come up. So I don't think I can actually see any new shoots coming up on this one. Have a quick look on this one, see if there's any obvious shoots. I can't see any, but normally they're just at the junction between the shoot and the tubers down there. You normally get, that's where the first shoots start to come out from. But as these have been dry all winter, there shouldn't really be anything on there. So I'm going to plant it upright, a little bit deeper than I have previously, but generally I don't normally bury the tubers too deep when it comes to dahlias. I normally only have them about 3 or 4 centimeters under the soil, but I want to have them deep enough, otherwise they get top heavy and they can get blown over too easily. So it's good to have them at least an inch underground, but as I say, I don't normally bury them particularly deep. So I'll just get that nestled in there and then fill it in. And as soon as this gets some moisture and some warmth, this will really start growing fast. It'll quickly put its roots out, and then I'll have green shoots within probably 2 or 3 weeks, possibly less if we have some warmer weather and sunny weather to heat up the polytunnel. I'll also need to clean this pot as it's really got quite dirty, but I just need to clean the outside of the pot. This is quite a nice one. It actually has a solar lamp that attaches to it, so the light comes on at night time. But that's not attached at the moment, so I'll show you an update on this when it's growing. So that's it all filled up now. What I will do is I'll give this a watering, put it somewhere in the polytunnel that should be quite warm and frost free, and then we should have some shoots in a few weeks. So I'll just now go ahead and finish off the last one. So again, I'm just going to cut off any excess stalk here because these are all dead and it's just going to look ugly with these stalks on here, so I'll just cut them off. These actually died back because of the frost. With dahlias, what you tend to do is to wait until the frost kills the top half of the plant. Then once the top half of the plant has died, you then take up the tubers and keep them somewhere in damp compost or soil. If you put them in, if you just keep them dry in the air, they tend to dry out a little bit too much, so it is good to have them in a bit of compost. These I kept in compost for the whole winter, and the frost didn't kill them because the compost provided enough insulation. But now that it's spring, it's time to go into a new soil. I'm just going to firm it down very slightly and shake the pot side to side to make sure that the compost builds in all around the different gaps of the tuber. And this will be planted up in the same place as the one in the white pot, just in a warm position. Give it a watering, put it in a warm place, and this should start shooting up within a few weeks as long as we have some warm weather. So that's all for this video, and I'll give you guys an update probably in a month or two when I've got some strong shoots on this. Hopefully in about 2 months time it'll be time for this one to be repotted and then put in its final position either in the soil or in a larger pot.